Yeah, so I wanted to start with this, just basically ask the question that science and religion, this has always been an issue about whether they're compatible, whether they're not. Stephen Jay Gould had this idea of NOMA, which is NOMA. This is the non-overlapping magisterial. Most of our audience is familiar with it, that they can coexist. I feel that they're both contradictory just because of the basic way that both of them work. But I wanted to start with your position. So how would you initially, just to introduce the audience to the topic, address this issue about whether science has made religion obsolete?
So firstly, again, thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it. So I think the key misunderstanding and the almost caricature of the religious position is this idea that faith is belief without evidence, belief contrary to evidence. And in fairness, to be honest, I think certain religious people have actually propagated this idea themselves. Often I find in more Christian circles, and even they would admit this, there's this idea that just have faith. And whenever you have a question, you just have faith. And it may well be that in certain Muslim circles, people often have the same misconception. But, from our position as Ahmadiyya Muslims, we believe in iman, which is loosely translated as faith. But what it actually means is belief on the basis of probability, belief on the basis of likelihood without complete certainty. So it's not belief in spite of the evidence, it's belief with the evidence, but without fully knowing, having grasped the thing itself completely. So, and this is actually something which is also a scientific thing. Often when in science, you'll actually investigate a hypothesis, you'll consider the hypothesis, then you'll investigate it, and you may have partial evidence, and on that partial evidence, you decide to continue that research paradigm, and sometimes it will bear fruit, and sometimes it won't. So I think this is actually how we approach the questions of God and all these big metaphysical questions, is we say, from the world around us on a rational basis, is there evidence for the existence of God? And if so, then we have iman, then we have belief in this. And then what religion tells you to do is it says, take your iman, take your belief on the basis of probability and turn that into certainty via following the path of the prophets.
And that's the key difference, I think, between iman and faith. Is that faith is you have faith, and then you die in faith, and you'll find out after you're dead whether you're right or wrong. Whereas in iman, and especially the Ahmadiyya perspective given by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be on him, who we would consider the promised Messiah and the Imam Mahdi to revive the true teachings of Islam, he said the purpose of faith, or iman, the true faith, is that it leads you to a stage whereby God responds to you, reveals himself to you, speaks to you, whereby you will have certainty in this life. And he said, if you don't attain certainty in this life, you're actually on the wrong path.
But my question on this is that I get the point of probability. You're absolutely right. You go with a lot of times proof in science, and we're all from scientific backgrounds. Proof in science is a bad word, right? What you want to do is you want to go with evidence in support of. So we always say evidence in support of, even when there are certain ideas that have been established as fact, like the theory of evolution. We still call it a theory because it's a work in progress, right? We have evidence in support of the theory of evolution. The problem for me is the jump that you make from that to certainty. So there are a lot of times probability.
Well, if that's your problem, can I jump in before you reach that area? Because I have a problem with even before that.
Yeah, but let me just finish what I'm saying. So initially we talked about how we were going to make this topic has science made God obsolete. But we changed it to has science made religion obsolete, which is kind of we'll get into the topic of that later. But one of the problems, like I'm when it comes to a higher intelligence in the universe, when it comes to can the laws of nature be God, can the Big Bang be God? I mean, people talk about these things, and for me, it's a matter of semantics. It's a matter of yes, like I'm agnostic when it comes to that. I am actually agnostic. Okay. I'm only more atheistic when it comes to religion. For me, the problem is certainty. When you make that jump from the probability, evidence in support of, to absolute certainty that I have faith that this means that because I have this level of probability, that means that God is real. God wrote books. God blesses marriages a lot. He told us, who to have sex with, who not to have sex with. He told us what we could eat and what not to eat. And we are certain about this. We are 100% sure that this happened. That jump is, to me, what sort of what your definition of faith. I wish more people had that definition of faith. But the vast majority of people who are religious, not just Muslim, but the vast majority of people who are religious, they think of faith as certainty. They don't just go with probability, but they actually make.
Can I actually counter what Ali is saying? I disagree with Ali, and the second part, actually, I agree with you guys.
We're off to a good start. This is great. Thank you, Armin.
We'll just let you be.
No, because at some point when something has a high enough probability, for practical reasons, you treat it as certain. Is that? And I think and I agree with you guys. I agree with you guys on the second part. I disagree with you guys on the first part. The first part, you're just describing science. You're just saying, oh, what is iman? Let's define it in a way that is, and the way you define it is like just a way of doing science. Like, oh, we're looking for evidence before we assign probability in things based on the evidence that we find for it. And therefore, science hasn't made religion obsolete. Well, that is just science. That is, you're describing science. What?
So there are two things. I think we maybe didn't communicate. Perhaps we didn't get our concept fully across. We don't mean to say that you have faith and you trust, and therefore it becomes certainty because you really, really, really believe in it, right? There are cases of that. For example, if I said to you, "Who's your father?" most people will be able to say, "My father is X or Y," and you can ask, do you have any evidence for that? They have no evidence, like in terms of a genetic test, but they believed it all their life on the basis of trust in their mothers. In fact, all fathers believe who their children are on the basis of trust in their wives and girlfriends. So trust at a high level does become certainty, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we are talking about is that we believe that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, said that observation of nature and of the universe can only take you to the position of saying that God should exist.
That there is a rational need for God.
Right, that there is rational need for God, or God should exist. To go to the stage of certainty, you have to literally be spoken to by God on an individual level, as an individual person. You need to have experienced communication from God. And he said that a religion that cannot lead you to the position whereby God actually communicates with you personally is actually a false religion. It's lost its way because it's no longer in contact with God. And he said just last thing I'll say is that he said that there are all these books, like the Bible and the Quran, that say that God spoke to X, Y, and Z. Well, if God still exists, then why doesn't he speak today? It must be because there's something that's changed about you, not changed about God. So that's our concept of religion. Our concept of religion is not that you just have belief and it becomes certainty by your conviction.
Okay, let's take all of that he said. How do you know that any of that is true?
Because we experience it.
You experience what?
On two levels, can I answer that? So, firstly is the level of divine scripture, for instance. So if you see in scripture or in the prophecies of someone who claims to be a prophet, you see things which you don't think could have been fulfilled by chance, statements which come true, or for instance, prophecies in the Holy Quran, then that on a scriptural level is a basis for a greater level of certainty. But then when it happens in your own life as well, and when you're, for instance, conveyed things by God and they come true, and this happens in a repeated way, then this itself becomes a foundation for your certainty. And that's what that is the Islamic concept. That's what it is from the time of Prophet Muhammad. That's what the Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad revived in this age, now I believe.
So you have two things to know. These are true prophecies that could not have, you're saying couldn't have been true, must be proves all of this, and also your own experience. Can you give us example for each one? Like your own, like sure. When you say, first your own experience, like what did you actually experience that made you...
So personally, I don't personally want to put out my experiences because they're personal to me, and to be perfectly honest, it's not going to convince you anyway. So there's no point in me doing that. It's not for you, it's for me.
We haven't been commissioned for that.
And we haven't been commissioned. I'm being commissioned by God to go around telling my personal experiences. I know that they delivered certainty myself, and I tell my close friends about it. But forgive me if I just don't want to open it up to the whole internet.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
The second thing I will say is that if you go online, for example, the founder of our community, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, is led by a caliph, a caliph of peace, a peaceful man.
Yeah.
So you can find a text, a PDF online, published in 2005 or so, which says dreams and revelations foretelling the next caliph, the fifth caliphate of the Ahmadiyya community. And that is a compilation of, I'd say, probably about 100 to 150 people's personal experiences that they documented and wrote in, stating who God had told them was the next caliph in terms of the name, in terms of the person, in terms of many, many factors. And they range from true dreams to visions to verbal revelations while they're awake.
And also,
there's just the second part he asked is, what's an example of a prophet? And there are many convert stories on our website, rationalreligion.co.uk, whereby people ask God for guidance, and there are people who live today, their photos are on the thing, you can see their identity, and they had personal experience.
You must know that we have examples like this for almost every religion, right?
Right. So
every main religion.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I wanted to say,
and we don't talk about.
We don't what? Sorry, what?
We don't deny that.
Yeah.
You don't deny those other religions?
No.